Happy Sunday. Welcome back to Retake the Week. It's been another busy week in Counter-Strike with a lot of big events going on, but also for those of you who give a single, solitary, insert word here, about here, 2CS. There's been a lot of games to watch as well. We've had a lot of the smaller cups going on, a lot of qualifiers, and there's been a few roster moves along the way. So not much drama, but plenty of substance in this week's events, plural. Before we get into that, though, we do first have to talk about the members-only perks. Members do get to ask questions in the Q&A, which happens once a month, and I believe last month we had 7 or 8 questions that lasted just 45 minutes by itself. It was a whole thing, quite a long segment. They also get access to behind-the-scenes interviews with members of talent and demo reviews of potential prospects, currently uploading at a rate of 3 a week. So for $2 a month, that's what you get. So that's pretty cool. Quack, I believe you have a show to promote that needs more promotion.
We dropped the first episode of Lead Speak on Wednesday. Tried to promote quite hard. It's been amazing, honestly. I think a lot of people managed to watch it. It's an interview with Robban, as I teased previously, on the members only thing. You should go watch it. It's an hour and 20 minutes long, and it's very interesting. And I pardon the audio issues. The next episode is coming in 2 weeks. We're trying to stick to Wednesday, but it's coming in 2 weeks. It's going to be a 2-parter, and it's a very interesting discussion with a very interesting Swedish man.
Do we get any other hints other than Swedish so far?
No,
is that going to have to be built up?
No, yeah, we can build it up. There's another Sunday in between.
All right, very good. All right, so that's Elite Speak. That's what's it's called, right? Elite Speak.
Yeah, it's on Elite Clan's YouTube channel, so you should just go to Elite Clan. And they are Elite Clan with a K, GG on Twitter, which is what you should go follow. Yeah. I retweet them all the time. You can just find them on my profile.
Yeah, the org brought up, built by Waller, primarily 1.6 legend. So a really cool project in that sense. And yeah, clearly so far.
He's not the very cool Swedish man. We want to have him on at some point, but like for now
that's not a spoiler. He's just the guy running the show behind the scenes in terms of the org.
Yeah, he's the guy who gets me in touch with all these legends who I otherwise would never get a reply from on Twitter.
I know that. Right, let's get into the real news, because the biggest event of the week was obviously the Blast, which, I mean, it's been a mixed bag. Some things predictable, some things fun, and other things a bit confusing. Let's put it that way. We start off, I think, with the biggest news story that's like the closest thing we have to drama in this last week, because it's been a fairly clean week in terms of nonsense outside of the game. Degster's visa issues. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of speculation as to whose fault it is, why this is happening to him specifically. I honestly don't have any answers. The first thing that comes to mind when this whole conversation pops up about degster is just that he's a solo Russian on a team of non-Russians who has been out of the game a while. Potentially he's just not got the channels or, I don't know, the support required to make this all go smoothly. I don't have any theories. Quack, you usually read the articles and know what's going on. Is there any explanation that's actually come through, or is it just a pure speculation on everyone's behalf?
I have no idea. I think Kixon said something that it wasn't his fault. Like he apparently, I think the fault is Denmark, because they are really shitty when it comes to, or shitty, but I mean their minister, I think it's Minister of Sports, is like super thinks that because of the war nobody should, no Russians should compete in Denmark in any event. I think he said the same thing about like the major when they were in Copenhagen, and that was like a big thing. So I think it is just that, like, apparently he submitted the visa application like 2 months ago, and they didn't, like, something happened and they couldn't control it. But I don't know. I don't know why they had to get a Danish visa specifically. Maybe Denmark has some different Schengen rules because of the war or something. Like this minister or whatever the fuck just went like, he's taking things into his own hands. But I'm sort of wondering, like, what the fuck is Heroic and Degster doing that Spirit and G2 like aren't doing, like what are they doing wrong when they are like several other Russian teams, several other Russian players? Like, how is it a problem that Degster, playing for a Norwegian organization, wants to come to Denmark to play an event, and then here's literally like Virtus Pro, like they had connections to oligarchs. They have 5 Russians and a bunch of Russian staff members coming through. Like, and Denmark just like thumbs up. This is fine. Like, something is going wrong there, and I think it's probably a heroics blame.
I do think a lot of these orgs you mentioned, they've had these guys. They've been Russian players. They've had the Russian player on their team for way longer, and they've also probably already had them in Europe on some sort of more permanent basis, I'd assume, because you can't just be traveling back and forth. It's not that practical. So, like, you know, Monacy's been, I believe, living in Belgrade.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Quite a long time. It's probably a lot easier for him to firstly renew a visa rather than get a new one when he wants to remain in Europe. And I'm pretty sure Serbia. Does he even need a visa to be in Serbia?
I don't think so.
That's another conversation.
If he does, it's a very cheap one to get for like, it's a very easy one to get for Russians.
So yeah, that's kind of the point. I think it's just a complicated situation for him just to have all of a sudden come into it, like having to get fresh visas. Because I know people who are non-European citizens getting visas. Typically, they just get a visa and it covers them just in Europe, no matter which nation they actually got it from. So that's why I was a bit curious to why this was creating so many problems. So hopefully there's going to be some better explanations coming soon. But let's focus on the actual game Heroic played, because I was expecting it to be pretty meh. And also, I wasn't entirely wrong. Their opening game was very positive. So what they needed, essentially, I think, to get through here was a huge overperformance from Nertz, not relative to his personal like standard that he can reach, but relative to the one we've seen at like a few events recently where he's not been bad, he's just not been a game winner. He's not been that impactful. We've relied entirely on Tessus and Shush, almost out of support roles a lot of the time. Or not so much Tessus, he's actually taken a good step forward, but especially out of Shush to just overperform and exceed expectations, and that will carry them through. With Saw coming into the team and Nertz taking over the AWP, it was always going to be a bit messy. And that opening round game win was great. It didn't last. I do think it speaks volumes to the quality of the players they do have, that with a coach stand-in, no real AWPer, having to just figure everything out on the fly, they're able to look so like solid. I mean, even their loss to complexity wasn't close. In the end, I just think fair enough. Like, pat on the back. Hopefully you'll actually have your AWPer at the next damn event. That's all I can really say to them.
It's a liability. Like, it's a liability at this point. So I don't know who the stand-in is for Cologne. I don't think anyone knows. Cadian
is he missing Cologne? Do we know?
Oh, yeah, he's missing a couple of games at least. Yeah.
Oh,
that was confirmed.
Okay.
And they have confirmed that there is going to be a stand-in as yet unannounced, and it's not going to be Saw because at this time, like, they had time to register a substitute at this point.
Right.
I don't know who that is. I think Cadian is an obvious one, like a teamless AWPer who, yeah.
It's not what I want to see, but I get the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and like other obvious ones are like Regali is an obvious one.
Exactly what I thought.
Salazar, like he's kind of mid, but I know Denmark rates him, and he literally subbed in for Heroic before, so I think that's a possible. I think Essetag is always like a factor. People kind of forget about him, but I think he's still around. People seem to like him. He's not a good AWPer, but he's done it, and like I think like it might be that kind of thing. Like, oh, it would be big for Essetag to play this event, and it would also be Heroic need a sub. So I don't know. It could be a bunch of different players. Could be Simple for all I know. But yeah,
now that'd be an entrance, right? Like,
yeah,
who's their stand-in? No one finds out on the day of the game. Their team walks out without the fifth. The lights go low. You hear the bell toll.
Yeah.
Then out walks Simple, big black trench coat, like the black hat and everything, proper Undertaker cosplay, just to take it off, reveal the Heroic jersey, and probably drop a 0.9 rating. But hey, it'd be one hell of an entrance.
So Heroic are out of blast groups already. So they are,
yeah.
They have their first game on Wednesday, so they're probably going to Cologne like right now. So whoever the sub is, I think we will know in any like at any time, because it's always on the roster lock lists. Like, but yeah, I haven't seen a leak of that, so I'm assuming we get that soon.
Yeah, be curious to find out. The next team I really want to address, I think, is Liquid, because for me coming into this, there was a lot of unknowns. I think if you looked at raw firepower, like the names on the score sheet, like who they were going to be playing with, this team would have been a great pick as an underdog. Unfortunately, between their dysfunction, the new IGL, question marks about the AWPA. No one, myself especially, wanted to really take a risk on picking them. However, they've shown up at this event. Twist hasn't really missed a beat in terms of his personal fragging. Naf's looked outstanding. JKS is just spitting in the face of anyone who said he should have been cut when he got cut. Like, I don't think anyone except the G2 teams really was super on board with cutting JKS. Even those who had doubts about JKS being as great as some may say didn't think cutting him for Nexa made a whole lot of sense. And this is just further proof of that. This G2 side could have been really competing for stuff if they just not fucked around and killed their firepower for like 6 months or more. I can't remember how long he was there. He wasn't there exactly. But everything seemed to be clicking. And so I'm not sure if it's just shooters going to shoot or Twist actually is as good in IGL as some people off this series of games want to believe he is. But for me personally, I think what's great is that they've at least found some comfort. Like, with the voices they have and the way they've applied them, they've all been able to find like a certain level of firepower. That's, I think, important for them because they are a firepower heavy team. And if you can't make any use of it, what was the point? What was the point? Yeah. Don't worry about the strategy too much. You are some of the sharpest shooting players in the world. You need to get that right first. Then we'll talk about in-depth strategy. But it worked here. They took down Na'Vi twice. It's about as legitimate an upset run as we've ever seen.
Yeah, because Na'Vi also played well. I'm looking at the stats now. I have not kept up this week. I've had a lot of things. There was a festival. That's why I look the way I do. But
that's why the behind-the-scenes segment is 12 seconds.
Yes. Yeah, Na'Vi played a good game, so like taking them down twice is pretty good. It might, like with Twist's IGL, it's like a new thing. It's like we don't really know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Maybe it's vibes. I feel like a lot of the time with first-time callers, they come out of the gate and it's like we feel good, but that's literally just because like they're kind of hot on it. They've been working for a couple of weeks and then they just kind of come out and they play a vibe game. Like they're not really playing the game they want to play, but it just ends up working out because they have the kind of good vibes that a team of good friends has. So I think that might be something. We don't know what the fuck is going on here. Yeah, but they play a very good game. And Naf and Twist once again just keep being the top performers for Liquid pretty much every single event. And yeah, that makes sense.
It makes you wonder what you can do with a North American roster if you did try to put one together, because you still always will have, if you're Liquid, if you keep Twist and Naf locked in, outside of, obviously Elige is probably considered by most the best NA player. You have 2 and 3 and it's not even close.
Yeah, I think you can.
It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. You definitely do. Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, could you cut Yakindar for someone equivalent North American? Like, you could probably cut JKS for like finding a North American anchor, like an anchor player, and do pretty much the same thing. Like, you played a good game, but like you could probably build a good team around that as well if you really wanted to.
But, yeah, if you want to go back to waving the flag, full North American pride, like I'm sure I don't think it'd be an upgrade, but you can cut. You can cut JKS. You can cut.
It'll probably go pretty far.
I'm just trying to figure out the roles, but if we're putting Twist IGL, cut JKS for Jaber, cut Yakindar for Hext. Yeah, it's not an upgrade in firepower, I don't think, especially with these guys who are younger and less experienced. But it's valid. It's competent. Your only question's an AWPA. But you have, I think, decent rifles to fill in those spots. I just don't think it's an upgrade. I don't think you should actually go and make that move currently.
I think come back in half a year. There might be a conversation about Lake. I'm not sure, but maybe. I don't think you should. I don't think you should make it.
There's a lot of time to add the polish that he needs to match a Hext in terms of those roles. That's quite a lot of polish needed because Lake is not there. But he's talented, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we remain to be seen. The final player to touch on that I left blank, just to throw out there, is Ultimate. He's been all over the place. Not in terms of, so much the way he's played. He's not played in a truly chaotic, wild, uncontrolled way. It's more that he's just struggled on map to map to find impact. He had a crazy map 3 against Na'Vi in their rematch. That might be the biggest question mark of their whole double victories against Na'Vi, is this crazy map 3 from Ultimate, where no one saw this coming. And he's averaged out to a regular looking rating. And most series, he even averages out to like, 1.1. He had a solid series. No. He went to the bottom, back up to the top, like over and over again. His numbers are crazy. His performances, when you watch, he's not found the rhythm yet. He's not really comfortable yet. But he has the talent, he has the skill to actually make it happen. Especially in some games, there were some games where he did get like triple quad kills. I saw this referred to in a Discord chat as like NAECL style, where he's just repeating the same angle. No one's flashing anything, and he's just killing everyone. Like there were a couple sloppy rounds he managed to get big multis off of, but overall, you can still see the skill is there. He just needs to figure out the flow of the game, understand his role within the team. He hasn't quite figured that out yet, which is why some maps looked really ugly. But when it worked, it looked pretty good. So I think they found a good signing in terms of skill. He's just a long way, I think, from being in the conversation with the other top AWPers.
I think he played a good enough game for his first event.
For a first big event like this, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the time teams sign new opens and they go like, I've seen this guy play, this guy's going to be the next Zywoo. Like I think Psycho said it about Torji. I mean, fucking Xtas picked up Modo when he was building the TSM roster, which was far from the best option he could have picked up. People look at these new young players who come freshly out of absolutely nothing and they go like, this guy's going to be the next Zywoo. But like, so I'm not really buying into like a lot of the articles were like, obviously a lot of the players got questions about how good is Ultimate, and like I think JKS said something like, oh yeah, if he just keeps doing what he's doing, he's going to be like one of the best of all time. And it's like, oh wow, all right, that's pretty big. But like I think he played a decent game for his first event. There's definitely worse debut events to have, so I think respect him.
Yeah, I do find it funny. Like it makes me question, like when it's a teammate saying like, "Oh, he's the next X or Y," I always laugh to myself because I'm like, "Yeah, you're just his teammate." Or you have the worst eye test the world has ever seen, because the next Zywoo, mate, at 16, Zywoo looked better than this, and that's obviously because Zywoo's prodigal. Like you cannot just say that. But no, I think they have a right to be excited, at least in part. Overexcited maybe, but excited nonetheless.
Yeah, he's played par for the course. Like he's done his job. Keep doing what he's doing, and he's gonna stay on the team. Like, yeah, and they could do something if he has the odd ops like event where he activates properly. That's like in a really big way. Then like this team could win something maybe. Like even go, I might even go that far. They're in Cologne, so let's see what they do there. That's like a big stage. I guess that is the big test for Ultimate.
It is. It's also I think the target for them in Cologne is not win the event. That's goes without saying.
The target for them is probably playoffs.
Yeah, make the top 6, because we're still doing that 6-person silly. Yeah, we're doing that 6-person silly thing.
Yeah, so but
do that.
Once they're in the quarters, let's see what Ultimate does. A big crowd in a big arena.
Oh, they need to make it through the play-in first. Okay.
Yeah, they do. Play-in, they should make it through the play-in, I think.
Yeah, it should. Do though. You need to do it. But okay, the next one. First time we're talking, I think, about a truly big disappointment. Even if it was predictable based on their level at EWC, FaZe still disappointed. The opening win to Cloud9, I initially could not figure out if it was more mediocrity from FaZe or a Cloud9 playing a far higher level than I personally expected them to, like right out the gate. And in reality, the more I watched this event develop, the more I realized it's probably both. It's still FaZe playing an underwhelming game of Counter-Strike, but it's also Cloud9 looking decent. So let's focus on the FaZe part of this. They do go on to take G2's home map away from them in Ancient. Like that was the map that built their entire EWC run. It was their only real T side. Everything else, shoot good and pray. Let's be real. But they drop down to the lower bracket. There they get beaten in a really close game by NIP. Sorry, I said NIP. I meant Wrinkle. But yeah, they get beaten by NIP. They still haven't figured out what the hell to do with themselves, like as a group. Like I think Karrigan still has great moments of calling. Rain can have moments of aim, like brilliance. But the ROPS and less. Kind of Brokey wasn't that great at this event, but
It was
Rob's.
an uncharacteristically bad event for Brokey, like for
It
this
was.
year.
It was.
It was his joint worst event.
Like we're
Worst
always
if you
going to
want to
focus on
count
Rob's,
placing.
but it's weird to have Brokey down there with him, isn't it?
He had one event which was rated equal, and they still made playoffs in Dallas. Now they were pretty bad, and he had the same rating, and he was bad. So like, yeah, but yeah, Robs is also the big component who's missing, because in Dallas nobody was on it. Here at least Frozen was doing something. So like maybe if Robs was there, it could be something like a F twist kind of thing. Yeah, Frozen was playing a big game.
Yeah, Frozen was outstanding. That's something to say. Like he's been not terrible at events. Like we've focused historically this year, especially since FaZe have started not being, a finalist, a top 4 at every event. We've started talking about Robs. Like sometimes he looks passive. He doesn't look like he's willing to go take challenges, like make plays. We wanted to see more out of him. We've never really talked about Frozen, and that's because Frozen's maintained a level that keeps him out of the public eye, but it hasn't been crazy good. This was an actually event where he played really well in the series they lost as well. Even then, multi-kills, finding space, taking challenges, winning rounds. Frozen was there.
Yeah.
You just need that to be infectious.
Aside from the one map he played in the IESF qualifier, this was his best event for FaZe in 2024.
That makes sense.
Rating-wise. Joint with the spring groups. Pretty much equal on those. Yeah, he played a great game. Like Robs has to do something. I think I've had it in my watch later forever, but Stiko made that video which was like, what is Robs doing wrong? And it's like a demo review about like what is different about Robs' good game and his bad game. Like the past 6 months or whatever. I don't know what the fuck's going on with Robs. I haven't watched it yet, but I want to watch it because I think it's probably going to be illuminating.
Yeah.
What do you think? So. Having watched them,
honestly, it looks confidence. It looks like his confidence is all over the shop. It's a classic issue. Honestly, Counter-Strike is a heavy confidence game, and players who are underwhelmed, it's rarely at the top level these days. It's rarely, oh, he's not working. Most players are working their ass off. It's just when you're in the rounds, you have to feel like good in your reads if you're playing a lurk, and you have to feel good like taking risks. If you're not confident in what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're intuiting essentially between all that info, yeah, you're gonna be stepping out in the wrong moment. You're gonna be overly passive. Like your lurk only activates once everyone's dead on the other side of the map. You're going to look silly. So I do think it's mostly confidence. He's still Robs, but he's obviously in interviews he's told us outright and in tweets that he doesn't feel comfortable in CS2 with the inconsistencies of certain mechanics. He'd rather certain things were just smoothed out so that he could master it again, is essentially what I've intuited there. He's not actually said that he wants to master it again, but he was the master in CSGO of the little details. And if the little details are missing, yeah, he seems just off his game. He just doesn't seem to be as able to really make the plays. We could probably see him return without a big change to the game. But it's a matter of his comfort, and we'll see what comes of it. Yeah, that's pretty much FaZe, though. VP, quickly. We need to talk about them. They went straight out. They lost to Big, which, considering how Big played in the other series, that's shocking. That's alarming. I don't think they've made this balance work at all. Like that's the biggest thing. Like they're trying to essentially bring in Electronic, bring in the new coach, and make it work with James still calling. They are not even close to understanding how this is going to work. Blit seems lost. Fame hasn't a clue what he's doing. The whole roster just seems to be discoordinated. I think we got some real issues at VP. And I predicted this when James said in an interview, almost offhandedly, maybe Electronic could take over IGL. It wasn't even that serious in context. It was like the most throwaway, unconnected, thought ever. But we are marching towards an Electronic IGL on this team if things keep going like this. I don't see how we can avoid it.
I didn't watch a lot of VP's games, but I did watch some of the Ancient game against Liquid, the one which was 3 or 4 overtimes. There was that one clip where 3 VP players, Ultimate just held one angle for the entire round on T side. He just held the red room angle into CT, and he got peeked 3 times. And I feel like that sort of paints a picture about like what the fight, like what are VP doing? It was what I was thinking. Because like, all right, we know an Opera is posted up on this angle. First guy peeks, dies, and then a second guy peeks, dies, and then like a full minute afterwards, Ultimate's literally just holding this. And I can just imagine Twists was like sitting in teams, people like, Ultimate, just sit there, man, just sit there. And then like, and like they peek into him. He gets a 3K there. It's like the least flashy clip that he possibly could have had.
Yeah.
But it was at that point I was like, this VP team has issues.
Yeah, as that overtime actually went on, they got worse and worse at that. Like they had like ramp pushes that looked like that. They had big site main entrance, like completely disparate, like 1-by-1 type bollocks going on. It was a rough overtime for them, especially. Like main game didn't go that well. It got progressively uglier, and in the end, yeah, they fell apart. And Dust 2 just they got blown out the water. The Dust 2 was embarrassing. Right, another team who we kind of have to make a judgment call on. Cloud9. Where are you on this team? I know you didn't watch a whole lot, but at least your thoughts coming into this team and how their results look relative to that. What is your take?
I thought it was an odd move to get Inters for that 5th position, because that felt like we were talking about Heavy God and IC for a very long time, and then we were basically throwing in any single, like any high-performing Russian rifler in existence. And it was like the names that were getting thrown around, it was like, oh, okay, so like Heavy God is going to anchor, and like he did on OG, and then there's going to be like another kind of anchor player. And then we're going to bring in someone like a Result, or we're going to bring someone, alongside Axel. Like, I guess it was going to be the Heavy God Boomage anchor kind of thing. And then we're going to bring in someone next to Exile, and then we're going to have IC up top. And I was like, all right, nice. That works. And then they sign Inters as the anchor, which kind of, to me, leaves Boomage in a weird position. So I had a weird feeling about it in that sense. But I guess it's kind of worked out because they played a good game. The big thing is getting Exile comfortable, and I think he was just not really playing his game because he was like he kind of got pushed out of his positions, I suppose. He's doing that well. I think Heavy God is like the perfecto replacement though. Like he's arguably even better because he, in the same way that Perfecto could, he like has a very solid floor. Like he can absolutely go big in a game, but he also fulfills like those anchor duties pretty damn well. So yeah, I think the big thing is Axel played a very very good game, which is kind of what they needed. I see being good out of the gate was also like good for him. But I think the big thing was Exile finding a bit more comfort than we've seen before, and that was good.
Right. The Axel part of this is probably my favorite part because he was more aggressive. Like they needed a player who was going to be challenging space more aggressively out of these riflers because typically you don't expect these guys to be super aggressive. And Axel was able to do that. Yeah, there was even like Mirage rounds where he's entry pathing like out onto the A-bomb site as the front man, which is not something we expect to see at all. So I think they figured out who's going to be taking that forward step because a lot of us questioned the balance of riflers between Heavy God, Axel, and then Inters. Like there's no true like space taker, you'd think, like at least amongst the stars. We know Boomich has done it before and fairly well whilst IGLing. But you need someone else with him, right? It's not just going to be the IGL trying to take all that responsibility. So they have made that move, and I think it's worked fairly well. Their limitation realistically is right now that they're very, very, very new team, not too much time pracking. And honestly, their map pool just isn't that deep. Like they are able to play certain maps fairly well, but yeah, when they got to like Ancient, Anubis versus NIP, they kept it close, but they're just not they're not playing that great. So I think yeah, there's definitely a lot of things to say that are positive about the team that look good. Icy I thought was way better than I expected to open up, but he wasn't as earth-shattering as some people may have implied coming out of Amcal. He's not going to be like a superstar, but I think he can be a really good AWPer. I think he can, between him and Wrinkle, the conversation for who's going to be top 5 in the next 6 months for the AWPers, 4 and 5 are starting to get real messy, I think. Especially if Brokey trends down, it's going to get real difficult to to explain who you actually like the most. People are going to have to go to some great lengths to justify positions. So it's going to be an interesting conversation to have. So I think, no,
Yeah.
Cloud9 have made good moves. I don't actually think they've fucked it up. I just think they need more time and to adapt.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Sorry, that some fucker was drilling above me.
Yeah, I heard a little bit of drilling just at the end
Yeah.
there. Like you mentioned it, I was like, I didn't hear anything, and then just as I finished that thought, I heard a. "Ooh."
Yeah.
That's okay. If that's all it's going to be, is just every half hour something pops through. We're good. We're good.
Yeah.
All right. So on to Ninjas in Wrinkle. I mean Wrinkle in Pajamas. NIP. There's a team behind him, but I want to talk about that kid, that Wonder Kid, because wow, swapping head trick for Wrinkle has worked out so damn well. This guy, he's had like outstanding and quiet series. But my word, that FaZe match he played was some of the best AWPing, like in terms of like in theory what he did, like how he approached the map. I've watched in a long time. Like that Ancient, the way he decided to challenge like different areas on the T side, take opening fights, take risks off his spawns, not just sitting back chucking nades. It was a thing of beauty. I think if anyone wants to learn how to play AWP in an impactful, fun way that will probably drag mid teams further than they should ever go, watch Wrinkle. Oh my lord. I think it's been a long time since I've seen an AWPer just in. I don't think I've ever seen it in CS2 outside of Monassy's like peak this earlier in this year. I've not seen an AWPer play with that much flair and that much just balls. Like that was some like, double dangling big steel balls. Like he was so bold with the big green, and yeah, it's getting pretty tired of watching like, flashbangs and saves and all this other nonsense that no one cares about. I want to see a guy preemptively smoke off a molly, run through two HEs just to kill a man at cave. That's sick. Like do that over and over again. If you have the spawns for it, take those risks. And Wrinkle did. Like he ran dry into mid on that Ancient map against FaZe just to pick off a player trying to jump up to heaven. Like he was so creative. It's a joy to watch. Were you able to catch any of his games? Were you able to like regale yourself with some of this Wrinkle Counter Strike?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, he looks good. He's a good player. He definitely played on another level than he did in some of the previous events in this Blast groups. Even if he was good then as well. I think. I mean, he's reached the point where he needs to be. It's. I'm kind of happy that he's sort of starting to be in the conversation about like this guy's a big player. Like he's not just another good opper. He's a big player. Like he could be a big player. I'm happy that's the conversation. I don't know. I'm more lamenting the fact that this team isn't really doing much behind him. I think Res played good in the FaZe game, and that was good because they kind of needed that. But I was kind of sad Max didn't activate in pretty much any of these maps. But he also has like he's also played well in the past, Maxter, on this team in prior events with NIP. So I think he's absolutely like he could absolutely do well. Coming like in subsequent events, I think he could absolutely do a good job. So I think things are boding pretty well. I think for this team, they have an opper who's like starting to get into the really big conversation. They have Maxter who can and should activate more often than he did in this event. And they have Rez and Alex who are just solid players who probably should back them up. Yeah, let's see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I'm just eating my words considering how I predicted that Wrinkle was going to be a weird side grade. But yeah, it's been a huge upgrade. So yeah, good job.
No, I mean, it has to be said, he has had like those 4 maps he played against G2, not great. To be fair, they kind of got stomped. But those maps he wasn't able to just get himself activated like he was against FaZe and against Cloud9. Like his ideas weren't working. That's something I don't mind. I don't mind the fact that you take risks and it doesn't work out. I hate watching AWPers who never take risks and still don't do anything. Like still end up dying, still have terrible maps. Like how do you manage that? You didn't try a damn thing and you still got picked off. So the fact that he is like going out, making plays, pushing smokes, challenging is great to see, and it should give them something to work with as a roster. But no, Maxter, I was excited for Maxter, like to watch him play. And this was his worst event I think I've ever seen. I've never seen him play this week. Like
I think
he
you're right.
looked really off. Like he's missing everything. So no,
Because
Maxter.
he was very good in Yala Compass. So yeah,
Yeah, and
he
even
was
when I watched him
definitely up.
before, when the NIP was falling apart and he was the only player that made any sense on the team, he was playing way better than this, like with almost
Yeah,
no structure, like trying to help him out. So this was
yeah,
just a terrible event for him. I think maybe nerves got to him, pressure, a big event, big opponents. He wasn't able to find it. So if NIP can get Wrinkle and Maxter back, like functioning at the same time, like firing on all cylinders, yeah, this team's got one of the most like interesting young cores in terms of their fraggers. Just a question of getting Maxter up to his usual level. All right, and finally, just going to touch on one upset, just a single upset in my eyes. There probably isn't according to the rankings, but according to my picks, it is. And that's Falcons beating Gamer Legion in their lower bracket game, which just shocked me. Um, it's more of a reflection on the fact that Falcons actually played better Counter-Strike at this event than they have at most of the other events they've attended this year. Uh, it didn't end up working out for them at all, though. They still got blown out on the last two maps by Astralis. They couldn't get any maps from the opening series. But the fact that they were able to actually just show off a bit of veteran like dominance against Gamer Legion, a team of kids, is probably the most positive thing we can say about them since dropping Boros. It's been that rough a ride for them. We still I don't get why we're not seeing more out of Sunpius. I think Sunpius is the big missing link in this roster. I don't expect Madden. I don't expect Dupree to be great. I expect him to be okay, play solid Counter-Strike, Magus to be a really good player for his roles, and Sunpius to be an elite AWPer, almost. Like he should be on that sort of, in that conversation. The fact that he hasn't even entered it this year is alarming. But they did manage to get more rifle play than they have at other events at this one. I'm just still waiting for their Spanish AWPer to do something.
yeah. Sorry about that. Aside from the Gamer Legion series, nobody except Magisk played well at this event. If I'm just looking at the ratings, and even he was very up and down map to map. But to be fair, they also got kind of blown out in some of the maps. Yeah, I mean, yeah, a big game out of Madden, the Gamer Legion game, which is, I think, something we said in the World Cup as well. We said, big game out of Madden once, and that was enough. But yeah, it's like, yeah, they have to do something. You're right. I don't know why Sunpius isn't working, because he was the one guy who kind of was working early on, and then and he's the guy who needs to be big. He is the guy. When you have this kind of core, like you say, Madden and Dupree, you aren't going to expect too big things out of them. And Magisk, well, he's been like the top player in my opinion for a while, but he doesn't have, he shouldn't do that all the time. So Senpais is the guy you're going to have to be he has to come out and be like the really good player. But he hasn't really done that. So I'm not sure why, but yeah. Good on them, I guess. I can think GL, like beating GL, yeah, it's an upset, maybe.
It's not according to the rankings, not according to the rosters, like the pedigree, anything. But it is to
after
me.
the Vitality game we saw, I think it could be considered an upset. But I also think they are a very fresh team, so like,
Yeah, there were a few rounds, like a few frags, like a couple
yeah.
silly mistakes away from beating Vitality 2-0. So, I guess just on that game it probably is, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're such a fresh team that like you can't even really say it's an upset, because they just aren't anywhere. Like this was their placement event to like place them somewhere in the rankings, I feel like. With ZTR at the helm and like very fresh faced, and it was like I couldn't really place them anywhere. They could be very good, could be very bad. It's like debut game, let's just put them somewhere in the rankings. So I couldn't really say if this was an upset or not, but yeah. Falcons
Cool.
need to do something though. Sonic said the same thing. He said this season is the season they need to do something. So
Yeah, he's right. It's been a disaster so far.
Yeah.
And so they might need to enter the Eternal Shuffle, which is the next segment, obviously. There are a few moves to talk about. I think there's a few I've missed because they're just too small. But the first one's pretty big for me. Considering the timing, it's hilarious actually that this got announced. But Starry has been signed to Tyloo. I tweeted about it. I'm going to reiterate some of those things I said. This kid is mega talented, and there's no doubt in my mind that he might be, like, skill-wise as good as it's ever gotten out of an Asian team. Like, he is insane mechanically. His POVs, though, are complete, unrestrained chaos. Nothing, well, some things make sense, but way too much is just nonsense. Like, I'm talking randomly trying like long jumps mid-game, throwing nades off walls, like just cocking up basic stuff because he's just in a rush and he wants to go frag. it's it's chaotic. There's a demo review coming Monday. I'd recorded it like last Sunday, so the fact that between then and now, like before that comes out, he's actually gone and signed for Tyloo is a bit wild. But yeah, he plays almost like the stereotype of Asian CS. Like, it's aggressive, messy, but my god, can he hit heads? Like, he really can hit headshots. So I'm curious to see how this works out for him on Tyloo. This Tyloo roster has been, yeah, ever since they signed some good players and they try to make some changes to bring back some of the old players, and that was just dumb. They like killed their firepower entirely. They're now fully committed to firepower, like bringing back. I believe Moseo was the one who was most recently on the bench, wasn't it? No,
I think so. Yeah.
was it? I think it might have been. Yeah, it was just randomly sitting on the bench for no good reason. Yeah, it was Moseo. After they'd signed him from Rare Atom, they benched him for some old guy who couldn't shoot. I didn't understand it. It kind of killed them as a team. They've now fully committed to the youth. Their starting roster now averages an age of 21. And if it wasn't for G and Jam Young, it'd probably be sub 20. No, G is young. Damn, Jam Young might be the oldest at 23. Holy crap. They are a really young team, top to bottom. I didn't realize that.
I feel like you don't get that in China as much. There's almost always like the joking or whatever who's like...
Yeah. They used to have Danking, Aristo.
Yeah, the old guys.
Older guys.
Yeah.
But no, Aristo wasn't old. But no, they have fully committed
he just played
firepower.
Like
He just played like what? That's rough. But no, they've really committed to firepower. How these roles are going to work, I haven't the first clue. But they definitely are talented, and that's going to be fun to watch at least.
I mean, Silo, they're going to make another roster change in 3 months, which they don't need to make, and it's going to be all for nothing. But yeah, it's a cool team. Period. I think Starry is cool. When he got benched from Lin Vision, I mean, this was the move that
we knew it was coming. Like, something was coming.
People knew this was coming, but I was like a little bit like, this guy could fit on Liquid. Like, he is enough of a caliber player where I would expect him in tier 1. He's held his own there before. Like, he could have definitely, if they signed him for Liquid, I would not bat an eye, because I would be like, that is a good scouting and a good signing. Well, good job. So like, that's the caliber of playing we're talking about. Like, you were talking about someone who probably should be up here.
Mechanically, yes. Yeah.
Do you think this Tyloo will bring it back into, like, let's say the top 20? Do you think they will do that?
No,
because we've had Tyloo have like high rank before with like Chinese teams.
But they need to consistently make it out of their qualifiers in their region and then do something against international competition. The difference is Blitz and Mara on Mongols aren't just signing any kid with 60% headshot and a 0.9 KPR in low-level play and hoping it works out. You know, they've actually brought up players that are young but, you know, open-minded to like being taught and molded into tier 1 pros. This roster doesn't really seem to maintain any of that. They've just got a bunch of crazy aimers. They're going to be dangerous. They might even knock Mongols out of a couple like local qualifiers. They've got the skills for it. I don't think they can make a big splash internationally, just because they're going to be a bit of a mess. Role-wise, the way they use their util, it's going to be kind of chaotic. I'm not sure I'm a fan.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, let's talk about this women's move that we've got coming up next. A bit of a wild one. Na'Vi Javelins, who I thought were looking really solid just in general, have cut 2 of their players, Lina and Letty, and brought in Astra, the French. I thought she was an AWPer. She's probably not though, considering she's joining a team with Viku.
She was an opera on NIP.
Yeah,
That
and
much I can say.
D7. And D7 is the big, I think, headline here. Because, oh my word, D7 was a beast on her teams in Impact. She was going nuts. So the fact that she was without a team for so long in like this sort of off season, I was confused. It's like, how's no one signed her? Like from Guild FE, she was the best player.
She took a break
Comfortably. Like she claims she took a break. Come on. She's looking for a team. There's no way.
Nia said outright, like she wanted to take a couple of weeks break from CS.
Oh, a couple of weeks break. It's a fucking holiday.
I think maybe she was just planning to take the season off, but then Navi came and were like, you should play for us, and she was like, yeah, you can't pass up that opportunity. I think if that opportunity didn't come, she probably would have been out for the whole season, I think.
Yeah. The weird part is, Counter-Strike wise, they might be the best team, like in terms of the Counter-Strike level they played prior to making these moves. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. Firepower wise, they've gotten better. Just off the D7 part of this. Like Astra's good, D7's nuts. So I can't wait to watch this roster. This is wild. I was not expecting this move. When I saw this announced, I was like, they've cut 2 players and they've gone international? This is stupid, but no, it's actually they've signed at least one nutty player. So hopefully it works out for them. What a wild team though.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, no, I feel like maybe they had to make a roster change, especially after posting their worst Impact season to date, results wise. But yeah, it's interesting to make this move. But I guess maybe they feel like, oh, we've been running with the same because they had this pretty much exact same roster, right? Yeah, they made like one roster change in the past. It's because they ran with this, and I guess they felt like we've done as much as we can do with this team. So it's time to change something up, especially when they do that kind of result. I never watched a lot of Navi Javelins. They were always in the opposite group from all the Swedes, and so I honestly I still don't know all of these names even. Like I don't even know if I didn't have the page open in front of me right now and you asked me what are the 5 players on Navi Javelins, I wouldn't even know. Like that's how little I watched them. Yeah, because they've played always on the other side of the group.
Amazing series. I guess if you're following the Swedes, you're not watching the finals of these events, so that's the difference. But they've played some. When Enigma Galaxy were the dominant roster, they played some insane series against them, and had some great moments from all 5 players. So it's always for me been tough to pick one to really cut. I mean, I guess they have cut the lowest performers, just in terms of like rating, but we'll see how that works out long term.
Yeah, D7 I highly rate though. Astra, I've seen
D7's nuts. Astra's been a piece in so many teams, and a good piece in a lot of like solid rosters. Like never champions of the Impact leagues, like never that great a team, but always teams that are not like worth scoffing at. And she's been a piece on so many that I guess she's just earned her rep, and now she's got to move. Hopefully, she can help deliver, because this team needs to be winning something. I feel like with Hanka, who's the biggest like up and coming talent in the Impact League circuit, signing D7, who's a monster as well. This team is very dangerous now and needs to deliver some results. I think that's a necessity.
Yeah. Yeah, they need to do something because they have been so close to the trophy for so long, and then they posted this result, and it's like kind of obvious that they're like, all right, we thought you were just inching closer to the win, but in reality, like we see a big downturn, we need to make a change. So yeah. Yeah, makes sense to make a change. Mostly hype about D7.
Yeah. All right, Talon have announced their roster. We knew they were coming out with a roster based around Azza. We also knew some of these pieces were going to be there, and the rosters end up being Azza, Hazza, Mo Money, Mo Mazza, MHL, Netic, and Addict. Which is about as good as we expect, considering, we already knew basically the core of this roster would be these guys. And the MHL part of this is interesting. It's been a while since we've seen him in a big team. He was on Falcons briefly when they tried the young people stuff. That's about it. Like he was benched on there for a while. And we haven't seen him officially play a game, I think, since February or something like that. Like it's been a while. But he's been touted as a big talent. He's had some great series and some great games on lower level teams. I think this is a fair enough risk to take, don't you?
I think so. He is a good player. Like he's always been a good player, I think. He kind of joined Mouse NXT right at their peak. When that roster was like properly peaking, he replaced Torji on that roster. prior to that, he was also on a Go for a long time, and a Go were like, when he was on there, they were like sometimes inching into tier 1 territory. Not like, maybe not like gameplay wise, but like ranking wise, they were slowly moving up there. They were like, especially like, once 2021, I think they really took off and they started to approach the top 20 properly. And he was there for it. So yeah, I think he's a very good player. He's always been a very good player. But maybe this could be his big break. I think this, aside from Falcons, depending on like how you want to splice it, this could be like his first proper bigger team, I would suppose. Because that Falcons roster, it was like a serious, like they went big on like, it's a big org that went big on like a bigger name roster, but they also scouted a bunch of pretty much unknown talents to put it together. Like, it wasn't ever like, I didn't feel like this was like a big tier 1 move. But Talon, I think, are properly trying to build something to move into the top 30. I think they have Azur and DJL who have been there before. And I think they have gone for some Aussie talents, rather like sort of the same as Falcons, but I think it feels a bit different to me, because it's like a big, yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see them play. I think yeah, I think it could be good. MHL is like the big, I think it hinges on him, because Hazard and Addict and Netic, they can frag, they can also drown. Like it could go either way. I feel like. But MHL is probably going to be the guy who can kind of take over by himself. But yeah, they're.
Something that's interesting to me is that they have brought DJL to coach, who has coached some really good rosters, and some that have been a bit more disappointing. But like in general, he's had a solid coaching like tenure, and they have brought in guys like Netic. He should be like the guy on the rifles in Oceania, at least. He was crazy. Like he put up numbers no one else does, like in that region. So if he can carry over some of that into this, like they're playing TSM today, that's going to be a big series to watch if you want to judge this team. Like they're going to play against a team who play structured Counter-Strike, play good Counter-Strike, and have some talented players. If they can hold their own and make that a good series, I might be excited about Talon. If they get crushed, lol, go home. But there's some potential there.
The thing about the Aussies is that, specifically about carrying over that sort of level of performance, is that is probably difficult. Like I think I've heard a bunch of Aussies basically say like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of really skilled guys, but they really struggle to carry it over because they are just aimers who play for fun. Like it's the underdeveloped league kind of thing. It's kind of like the same problem as NA. Like nobody's here. Few players are here to like work for it and like do things correctly. They're more just like, let's open a server, pop some headshots, and that doesn't really hang as well once you go very serious with it. Like once you start playing, like you say, structured opposition, once you play people who can actually like, find your weaknesses and play on them. Yeah. So that's sort of like the thing where I feel like this could be difficult for them to carry over. But I think if they are, all three of them are very, very skilled players. So if it works out, it does work out pretty big, I think. Not like, I'm not huge on Azur. Mostly just because like it's mostly just because of this fucking Sprout thing. When he joined Sprout for a month and then he left and he was like, yeah, nobody here was taking it as serious as I was. And he was like, yeah, like nobody here wanted to do anything proper. Like I can't work in these conditions. And I was like, if I think he said something like that in an interview, and I was like, what the fuck, man? You were here for a month. Like, come on, dude. But like, what sort of level of respect do you command if you join Sprout and then leave because you feel like they're not serious enough? Yeah. I don't know. So I'm not too huge on Azur, but I think, like I said, if it works out, it works out.
Yeah, I hope it does. I'm going to maintain my excitement for Netic until I see it get burst. Just because in a region of people just playing for headshots, he's the best one by a country mile we've ever seen.
Yep.
Like it's not even close. It's not comparable. So even if he loses 90%, like he goes down from 100% of this to like 80%, 75%. Talking about like a 1.3 rating, like 0.8 KPR, like nothing to scoff at. Like that'd still be insane rifle play in EU. So you'd have to drop miles for it to be a problem. So yeah, hopefully they can give TSM a game, and if they can't, yeah, go home. Right. Prospects of the week. Unless there's more transfers that you need to bring up that are significant, let's go on to our favorite segment, I think. Prospects of the week. The graphic that will lead the show off on Twitter. I'm going to start because I've picked the least controversial player in all of Counter-Strike. No one has a negative thing to say about this guy. He has never done anything to offend, he's never been caught doing anything wrong, and he never will. He's everyone's perfect player. It's Joel.
People's champ.
He is the people's champ. He really is. I mean, on BC Game, he's done the classic Joel. I'm going to put it this way. On 5W, he joins the team, plays like 18 maps, gives them the most insane level of performance. Like, he looks like Netic in Australia, but he's doing it in EU against some solid tier 2 rosters. Wins them a tournament. Goes on to BC Game. Starts off crazy. Doing the same thing. Has a bit of an off period where his numbers are up and down. Then this last week, it goes back up to this like stratosphere. Plays 12 maps, averages a rating of 1.4 something, I think. Insane fragging. Insane impact. You watch some of these games, they seem out of it on like after a first half, second half, boom, 6 multi-kills, and they win the map 13-7 because Joel's on the team. Joel is, in tier 2 play, singularly impactful. No one comes close to being as important to the winning and losing of maps than this guy. Say what you will about him, but there's no denying this amount of fragging. No one else comes close. I think there are some... Obviously, he's always going to have a bad reputation. He's always going to have the sick stuff lingering. There's always going to be his rep with the Swedish players. I think he's never going to make it on a Swedish team. To be fair, they're not really into making moves of just pure winning. They need to be friends and all this other crap in the background, apparently, to make a good move. So that's never going to really happen because he's pissed everyone off. But if he can keep doing this on international rosters, at some point he has to take a step up. And I can't wait for that day. But for now, we get weeks like this, where he plays 12 maps, dumpsters everyone, and his team just pick up win after win after win. The lows that come with his gameplay, his style, his approach, can be low. He takes every risk. He takes every push. He loves to make round-winning plays. Inherently, if he gets it wrong, those are round-losing plays. He gets it right at such an impressive rate, though, that I couldn't be bothered. What a crazy week, and I'm going to have to keep talking about him if he keeps doing nonsense like this.
He keeps commanding. Yeah, he keeps commanding a level of respect, despite everything, which is good on him. I mean, look, this is exactly what we wanted. We wanted him to take this second chance and run with it, and by the looks of things, he's running with it. He is becoming someone who should be in a lot of conversations, so to speak. Like, he should be up here with the players who we talk about being proper good caliber players. He should be one of them, and he is, which is great. That's great to see. Amazing. Yeah, I mean, I can't really fault him. Like, I didn't watch him this week, but I feel like I didn't miss out because I've probably seen it before. It's just pure dominance. Like, it's
yeah, how many times do I need him to kill 4 people at B on Inferno for me to realize, oh, it's Joel. He's going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited for Joel, despite everything. But yeah, I picked Patsy, the Russian player for Perivision, who I've mostly just picked because he finally had a good stint with Perivision. They pulled up all of their challenger. I think it was because they were in India for that one LAN, which we talked about last week. They pulled up all of their Challenger League games in like 3 subsequent games, days, sorry, versus 9pandas, TSM, and Guns, and actually they have a 4th game against Betera later today. So they've really just had this weird run in the past couple of days where they've come out and tried to beat their group. They beat TSM, current group leaders in their group. They beat 9pandas, who are actually at the bottom. But even with wavering results, I still respect 9pandas quite a lot. I think they're a very good team. Lost to Gun 5, which is interesting, but yeah, like, they played a very good game. And Patsy finally played a good game, so I'm mostly picking him because we had reason to talk about Patsy several years ago when he was a Spirit Academy graduate. basically the guy next to Dexter when they stepped into Team Spirit for that time. And then Spirit started. He was one of the guys who was there when Spirit became a tier 1, like a tier 1 team. I feel like a solid tier 1 team when they started, when they had that great run in Antwerp. I feel like that was like a what do you call it, a watershed moment. I feel like that's what it was. But yeah, he was a big Spirit Academy player. Espada before that, which was also just Spirit Academy. It is Spirit Academy. And then he moved on in Spirit, had very very good time there. Yeah, basically he was just the guy next to Dexter, and he was very good with it. Then he kind of got screwed over by moving to Liquid, which was a strange move. I didn't really fault him for doing it at the time. I was like, yo, this is a gamble, but if it works, that's a very good move. He's a very good player. But yeah, I guess he kind of stumbled because of that, because then like he's out of the tier 1 conversation again. So now he's on Perivision, who I think they've had the pieces to do something good. They've been very up and down. I mean, I remember when they played their first LAN event, and they went out last, and immediately afterwards they benched 3 players.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was the thing. But yeah, Patsy's one of the guys. And they finally had a good week because they had a bunch of good wins, and Patsy played a good game. Very good game. Let me actually just pull up the stats real quick, so I'm not talking out of my ass. I'm not, but like, so I can actually say the proper numbers. 139 from the. I believe he still plays the very aggressive, T side roles, opener roles. So a bit of a Joel performance in that sense. Has like the big opener, but he's just doing everything on his own. So yeah, next to Art Frost as well, who's also worth talking about. Beltranok, just another one of those solid players. Kickert. I was about to say major champion, but did he leave the team before they won the major? I can't even remember. No, he did win the major.
I was about to say, I think so, but I was drawing a blank. Like, I wanted to make sure before I said it out loud.
James, Flit, Fame, Norbert. It must have been Kickert. Yeah, it must have been Kickert.
Yeah, he won the Rio Major. Yeah. 2022, that's far back enough, yeah.
Major champion. You have Alpha, who is like the young, I believe he's the AGL. Yeah, he was very adamant on being AGL when he was in Sprout. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's AGL. Art Frost, like, really only in this team because Shiro became available. Like, that's the only reason he's here. He would have been on Spirit otherwise. Belchanok just keeps playing a good game, and then now you have Patsy in this like really big week. He's been so up and down that I sort of looked at him and I was like, come on, do something, because we know you're so good. But yeah, he started playing a very good game, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, he's definitely still. I mean, talent doesn't disappear, and he was a crazy talented player back on Espada, then his Spirit Academy run, and then his main Spirit run that was a part of driving them up into relevancy. He showed off that he was able to play at a tier 1 level. The Liquid moves were the wrong time for both those players, especially considering both of them for the first time were going into common English. Pretty ridiculous pair of moves in that sense, especially with the roles not really making a lot of sense to me. So they ended up kind of faltering, but the fact that he's able to come onto Parivision and even despite their rough start, slowly start like revving up his motor again and the team looking a lot better. I still think Art Frost has a place on a stronger team as an AWPer. I assume it was a buyout reason that kept him off of Cloud9, because I don't see how you can have just in your mental list at the time, like, I see above Art Frost unless you've just forgotten he exists. Because he was that good on Spirit. Like, he was good enough to be on a tier 1 side. Yeah. So that's a conversation for another time, though. I'm not going to start ranting about GMing stuff. More importantly, this guy still has a lot to show us. He's still only 20. He's a name we're so familiar with, we forget how young he is. Yeah, he's got a lot of potential, and hopefully this Parivision side can deliver it. I thought they would deliver it under Jerry. That fell way short of the mark. Maybe with Alpha in the roster.
Yeah.
Then get some stuff done.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. This guy played 2 major playoffs at 18 in 2022, and then he fell out of it.
Yeah, a bit wild.
He's another one of those like I feel like it's the Plopsky split. It's the Plopsky split of players, like players who came into tier 1 extremely young and then they did good but not proper, like circumstances happened and they fell out. And then, you know, now you just have this like 20 something, like 20-year-old player with 4 years of tier 1 experience, and it's like it's
wild.
You know, there's a couple of these, like Plopsky is the first guy I thought of, so that's why I call it that. But Patsy is like probably the big one, who are just like, you know, probably a treasure for any team you want them because of that experience and the future potential. But you know, just they sort of sit here in this lower layer and struggle a bit. But yeah.
All right, that's our show. Remember to tell us, leave us a comment telling us why we're wrong. Like and subscribe if you want to see more if you enjoyed. Members get special access to behind the scenes content, polls, votes. They get rights. That's essentially how it works, as well as extra content. Yeah, we'll see you next Sunday. If you made it this far, you're my hero. See you in the next one.